at the risk of sleeping on the sofa tonight, I actually kind of did want Rach to win the Worlds. Sos, babe.
You can come home with me tonight.
I feel like...
I wanted to sleep with Shah tonight.
Welcome back to the second edition of the Team Live to Lift podcast. This one is going to be all about getting into powerlifting, different federations. We're going to touch a bit on like transitions from sports, imposter syndrome, R methods, everything, blah, blah, blah. But we've got special guest today, my lovely girlfriend, Sophie. Here she is.
Hello.
You want to say hello?
Hi.
Hi. Tell us about yourself.
Tell us about. Well, I'm dragged into this because I'm your girlfriend.
Yeah, nice. What have you been doing previously?
What, today?
Yeah, today, yeah.
That watching the first episode.
Yeah, cool.
Not because this is going to be a week later. Shooting the behind the scenes for the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
But yeah, chilling.
Cool. And tell us about your powerlifting.
Oh God. So I've just done my second season. I dabbled in a first season and then went back to bodybuilding and back to bikini. And then I kind of decided I was pretty much done with that now. I moved over to powerlifting fully. And yeah, I've done my second season. I've done Brits, Euros, Worlds this year, all back to back. I was in prep from literally February to August. So that killed me a little bit. But yeah, it was a good time, and now I'm very happy in an off season, a few kilos heavier and eating plenty of food.
Nice. You know, that's how I know I've got like the unicorn, because I've got a girlfriend that actually finally made her mind up about what she wanted to do. So
What do you mean? We'll save the space and fast forward to like 12 months. What do you mean about another bikini prep? You'll be like, no, I told you if I ever say that again, you need to slap me.
So Shah, like, going with the recent tradition, we need one comment from a hater, please. Can you deliver for us, please, if that's all right?
As Sophie's here,
Yeah.
Go on, roast me.
I'm going to roast you. As Sophie's here, we recently put up a YouTube short of your deadlift, right?
Yeah.
160.
160, a big boy deadlift. But K9 Andrew 31K didn't like it. Didn't like it. Because the previous short was a 55 kg guy doing 210 for 14.
Of course
Nice.
it was.
Yeah.
Of course it was.
I found it hilarious how 55 kilo men come up on his algorithm. But
You know what? I just think, what a talent. I think click the link in our description box if you're that 55 kilo fella. We'd love to have you on our team.
I find it crazy as well, you know, like some of these lads online, like they state the obvious, like, yes, men and women physically are different. And if a man can do the same weight as a girl, congratulations. Mm-hmm. You're fulfilling your biological potential. Congratulations, well done. You know, you should be able to lift more than a girl, like without, you know, any disrespect. You know, this is a natural female girl. You're a natural man. You should be able to lift more. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean?
I hope so.
You'd
You
hope
would
so, wouldn't
hope.
you?
But
Yeah.
the guy commenting probably can't, because that's why he commented.
Exactly, that's the
Sorry,
thing.
K1.
K, whatever his name was, K9 Andrew, whatever. But yeah, they've got to get across that they can do more. You need to know that
Their
they can do
masculinity
more.
needs
Like
to be
we
Yeah.
protected.
didn't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah,
We didn't know.
Yeah.
we had another one. Mate, I'm 70 kg and I bench 140.
Wow.
Good for him.
Good for him. That's good numbers.
Quite strong.
Yeah.
Quite strong.
Well
I wonder
done.
if it's like he's kind of hip thrusting it, like bouncing it off his chest.
It's
I
not-
mean,
it's not a
likely.
pull.
You know,
a
there's
half rep.
bit of downward motion with the bar as well, and yeah, there's definitely no pause there.
No.
Because a 70 kilo powerlifter who bench 140 definitely wouldn't be leaving hate on. You know,
No,
girl
that's the
deadlifting
thing.
160. So
What I find great about these comments, though, is that if you can do that and you've seen a competitor do it and like win a world title, then why wouldn't you just compete too?
Yeah.
Because if
That's the
I
thing.
genuinely saw someone like win the Brits and I was like, well, I can do that. So like, why don't I go and compete? So
Yeah.
I think the girls, you definitely do take a lot more inspiration from each other. Like I feel like for us men to feel inspired by another man, they have to really be like the top of their game. Whereas like a lot of you girls, like even just from each other, take a lot of inspiration. Like there's a lot of girls who join who are like, oh, you know, Shah's my inspiration. Or
I think maybe with Soph, you've obviously got Rach in your weight class as well, just moved up, and
Yeah.
it's good competitive edge, but also you do both bounce off each other. I think it was at the Brits where you pulled 160 and Rach needed to pull 160 to sort of stay within the same pool as well. So it's friendly competition, but you do bounce off each other.
I think
Go on. No, I at the risk of sleeping on the sofa tonight, I actually kind of did want Rach to win the Worlds. Sauce, babe.
Fine. Bye.
You can come home with me tonight.
I feel like
I wanted to sleep with Shah. I wanted to sleep with Shah tonight.
I feel like
No, do you know what? I do think she was the better lifter on the day in terms of like consistent performance, and considering I had COVID the week before and I was essentially napping in the hotel lobby after bench, I didn't think I would do it either. Like I did think she would pip it, and I thought she was the better lifter on the day, and I think I was an absolute jammy bitch for doing it, to be honest with you. And I cried for her afterwards. I'm really sorry.
I ended up watching her like her deadlift the other day because we were looking for stuff to put up for shorts, and I don't know what it was, but it was just something around mid-knee, something just jerked out of position in the bar just immediately because you're lifting that close to 1 rep max, right? The bar just kind of went down, and I was just like, oh. It's hard because when you're coaching that, they're both your athletes. They both represent your team. So either way, I'm getting first and second place, but you have to be like really unbiased in that situation, and you have to push both of them to like beat each other. So the way I set it up, you know, I was like, I'm going to give Sophie that I think she can do on the day, which to be honest was...
No, because I had 152 in my head and you went 155. I was like, oh.
Right. That meant, that's what I thought she could pull and what she needed to pip her. And then obviously that set Rach up for 160, which I'd seen Rach pull before, albeit not given. Different refs, different day. I think maybe... You know, the refs all decided on the day it wasn't there, but I've seen them given loads of times. So I knew she had it in her. That was hard, man. That was really, really hard. That was a great competition night. Definitely the competition pushes you both on.
I remember having this conversation with you though, because I remember as much as our team is quite big now, we've had literally everyone spread out across different categories. Like we haven't really had anyone in the same category.
Yes, both age groups and weight classes,
age group
isn't it?
and weight class, and obviously equipment used.
I think we know as the team grows, like
it's going to happen.
Well, the three of our athletes will probably come up against each other at one stage and everything too.
And I remember saying to you, I was like, and me and Rach say this a lot as well, like it's going to happen at some point, but I'm glad it was us to like start that because we're really good friends and we always have a little moment like before, because we know it's going to come down to the deadlift every time. We always have a little moment where we're like, I love you, no matter what happens, we're still good friends. May the best woman win, I'll talk to you after. And then we just like go our separate ways and like crack on with our warm up. But I like that it's us two that started that. So then hopefully when it does happen with others, it's kind of, there's no bitchiness, there's no arguments. Do you know what I mean?
So for people watching this who like we'll get with the title, getting into powerlifting and whatever, like how do you get into powerlifting? Simple thing is probably going to be find a federation. So I think we'll go through the 3 main federations in the UK. And then we'll reel them off. So maybe if we start with Ravs, who is a GPC referee.
It's obviously you find the try and find a local qualifier closest to you, or one that sort of fits your like peaking schedule.
They're going to have them on their website, right?
Yeah, so you go on the website, or a lot of them now have like forms via Instagram. Some people like still use Facebook and everything like that too. So there's always like accessibility, both social media or via the website, where you can find qualifying totals for like British Championships and international competitions. So you can gauge a level where you are at, and then can decide when you might be ready to compete. I think ready is probably the wrong word. I don't think you're ever really ready to an extent, but you find the right time where you can program enough time to be able to then go and compete. From there, and you've got the rule books. Each federation has a different rule book.
Yeah. So in terms of equipment, like where would GPC differ from other feds?
GPC, it's not too much difference apart from the knee wraps. They only allow a maximum of 2.5 meter knee wraps. I think the ABPU allows 3 meter. Knee wraps. Sleeves. They have created their own sleeves category. Which I think they kind of follow along the guidelines of the IPF standard of 7mm. Correct me if I'm wrong, anyone watching on that one. Otherwise, like with most federations, you have to have a singlet. That's pretty much where it starts. That's the absolute bare minimum that you need. And then the other bits are kind of at your disposal, really. When I got into it, wraps and sleeves were like within the same category. So wraps are more advantageous. So we rolled with wraps, but now they've created a separate sleeve category as well. So that's where differences in equipment can come in. I think the main one difference with the GPC versus BPU is that you can't walk out your squats. You have to... You can move you can set your feet in a squat position by moving them sideways.
Move laterally.
Laterally, but it can't go forwards or backwards. But otherwise, and then there's a start command on bench as well versus ABPU as well. But there's no sort of differentiation in your feet can be flat or anything like that. So that's, general gist of those rules.
Cool. And Shah, what about like the A and the ABPU?
As in getting involved in that. So I think a good thing with the ABPU or BPU is that they actually put on so many competitions. There's like a couple a month, right? So there's always something around that you can get into. Again, it's really easy to find, like on their social media. Like the gyms page will always post about it. It'll be on their website. They've even got an app now as well that you can look at the competition schedule.
And the whole like application process, like the form, which is hilarious.
I like it, yeah.
It's like completely like idiot
proof. Like it's like, I'm not an idiot. I am entering the Sunday. Like I have triple checked. I like that. So yeah, that's quite easy to get involved with. And then the rules.
Weigh-ins. What's different with the weigh-ins is the ABPU for a qualifier, you got the option to weigh in on the day.
Yeah, you do have that
couple
option.
Of hours versus
24-hour weigh-in.
GPC is 24-hour weigh-in.
Yeah. You can do the 24 hours in the ABPU, but you don't have to. Do that on, like you said, qualifier. You can just come in and weigh in on the day. I think like 2 hours before, right?
Yeah.
And also like they have that raw and classic raw side of things. So if you do like complete naked knee squats, you can go naked knee and compete against other people who do naked knee. And then classic raw is wraps and sleeves. Wraps or sleeves, not wraps and sleeves. And then slightly different to the GPC, you can walk out from the mono. But there are no safety straps.
No. There's no start command on the bench. Is with the like heels up, head down bench sort of thing, how's that different on GPC?
It doesn't really. Both follow along the same rules. They don't go into elbow depth just at this stage compared to who we're coming on to next. But the rules are very, very similar. We have seen some people, I think you were the prime example when you competed last time a couple of years ago, you thought the rules were exactly the same and you thought you couldn't walk out your squats when you could. Essentially like that.
And I ended up going down with 220. I've got like this thing with like 220 as like a squat rate, which is like, it's like this bogey number. It's like whenever I touch it, I just ruin it. So I opened at 220 and I ended up going down twerking with it because I hadn't squatted monolith for ages. And then missed my opener and was just like, no, fuck it, I'm going up. Walked it out, smashed it. It's got my next attempt after that as well. So yeah, that's something that is quite good. It's, I mean, because not everybody has the ability to train on monolith.
I think that's good where people, like shift workers, for example, who can only train at your pure gyms or gym groups, 24-hour gyms essentially, won't be kitted out with a monolift.
No.
So it's just replicating what you can do in training, really, isn't it?
And then like I've had conversations with people. I mean, like Emma, who like runs the ABPU, who I mean I think's fantastic. She's always been extremely supportive of our team, and really helpful, even when like in the infancy of me coaching in powerlifting. Really, really helpful. And I always try to apologise for asking annoying questions because I know she's a very busy woman.
It's the only time you will.
It's the only person I apologise for asking questions to is like Emma. I'm sorry, Emma. But they're really good at grassroots powerlifting. So like for anybody looking to just get into it and just get their first competition under the belt, make a mistake or two, not such a big deal. Do you know what I mean? Not make such huge mistakes. Amazing. I can't fault them enough.
Yeah, we like to. That's like our first competition.
Yeah.
As long as a schedule
set
fix,
people.
I think.
Yeah.
And there's a route to it as well, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then obviously like British powerlifting, I would say those in my eyes, I mean, there are people who might do British drug free, who might disagree with me, but I think the alongside British powerlifting, which is a subsidiary for the IPF in the UK, or Britain, they are different because although all three federations have an equipped side, we're only talking about raw here. Sleeves, 7mm sleeves, kit checks, rules with what type of shirt you can wear. I think it has to be cotton. It can't show too much advertisement. They squat and bench out of a rack, a combo rack, stiff bar. Whereas in the other federations, you get squat bars, deadlift bars, and power bars for benching. It's all done on the same barbell. Arguably stricter standards of refereeing. Not as much music. But as everybody loves to say, the standard, bro. The standard. Even though they're nowhere near the standard when they talking about how good the IPF is, that's the standard, like it's crap in all the other federations. But essentially, I think you're probably looking at the pinnacle of natural lifting if you can achieve IPF status and get selected to represent your country. There's big things like sponsors behind them and everything else. And they with Sheffield and the IPF, and doing a lot for powerlifting. We talked about abs on the last podcast. There's another alternative federation that you can get into where those guys are doing, there's tested, untested wraps, sleeves, all sorts, mono, combo rack, it's just, there's a lot to get into powerlifting. And like I said, check the website out. And if you are stuck and need a bit more help, hire a coach. Knows all this information for you.
Link
If you had any top tip for someone getting into the sport, Shah, what would be your top tip?
My top tip would be hire a coach.
Yeah.
Because
specifically you.
Hire me. No, but when obviously on the last podcast, I spoke about how I got into powerlifting. Originally, I wasn't going to compete or anything. And I just thought you commented on my post and you were like, when are you going to compete? And I was like, maybe next year. I hadn't really thought about it. I was just thinking I'm not good enough yet. But it wasn't until I actually had you as a coach and you actually told me you are more than ready, you can go and do this. That then pushed me in that in that direction. I wouldn't have done it otherwise. If I kept waiting, I wouldn't have done the pro shows. I wouldn't have done the British and all of this stuff. There would be so much that I wouldn't have achieved by now if I just kept waiting. And I think the main thing for me is I should just get that coach early doors so you know what you're doing and you have I
think one thing to add is that no one broke world records. Well, maybe 1 in a million breaks world records within their first powerlifting competition. I think we spoke in the last podcast about being ready. No one's going to be ready. You're not going to be setting the world alight. It's about enjoying the experience. And I think you certainly got the bug for it, for the amount of competitions you have done.
Yeah. I was just getting experience under my belt. That first year is really all about just getting that experience.
It's probably the biggest question you get is, or biggest statements get, so I'm not ready to do that. When are you going to be ready?
Ready.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what
Exactly.
are you deciding is ready?
Ready to me is being able to lift to the commands, the actual
Yeah.
standard of strength that you need to compete in a powerlifting meet. I mean, I'm sure Lily won't mind me saying, but in her first ever, she was young. Do you know what I mean? And we were all inexperienced, and we kind of were like, yeah, Lil, like throw yourself into a competition. She benched the bar on the collars.
Got
Like,
a total though.
she got a total. I think she might have taken a couple of GPC British records as a youngster, like that age. You know what I mean? Like, so, and she caught the bug. And one of the main things that it gives you, and this is something that was discussed in that the Iron Mindset podcast, was people do it for different reasons. A lot of people are in the gym and they're just training. They're like, they have no structure, they have no purpose. Like, your purpose for what? Like, when is the end goal? Powerlifting gives you something to train for, like with an end date. I stand on the platform, step onto the platform, I lift. The numbers that I hit, then base what I do for the next 6-12 months, like, and dictate what exercise I'm doing to highlight weaknesses. It gives you that purpose and that direction in your training, which I think probably a huge percentage of the gym population lack. You know? What would be your best advice?
For a newbie.
Someone straight, like, you know, about to step onto a platform, they're worried, they're really nervous.
I would say if you're going to compete for the first time, decide what it is that you want to get out of it specifically. I think there's always going to be people that have their eye on the qualifying totals. They want to win things. Amazing. You want to take that route, go for it. And I think there's other people that do just see this kind of, I guess, unlimited bar of like, how strong could I actually get just for me? Can I do something I never thought I could do? I'm sure all of us have lifted weights that if you told us 5 years ago we were going to do, we probably would have gone, absolutely not. So yeah, I would decide what you want out of it and let that decide your path, if that makes sense, and decide your experience. And I think that helps because you're going to have a struggle at some point. You're going to have a day where you fail a lift. You're going to have many days when you fail a lift. So whatever you want out of it is going to make that difference in how you respond to those situations as well. And I think for me personally, where I've grown up doing athletics for most of my life and then I got into bodybuilding, for me, bodybuilding was meant to fill the void of athletics, but it kind of didn't, because it doesn't have the same athletic performance, kind of fight or flight in that moment you have to compete that powerlifting can. And so when I did start powerlifting, I was like, okay, that's kind of what bodybuilding was meant to do, but didn't. So for me, I like that it takes me back to being an athlete growing up, and that self-development, fight or flight, being under pressure, like what can you do in that moment? Like, I love that. So for me, that is what would drive me in the sport, if that makes sense.
What about you, Ravs? What would be your number one advice to a newbie?
Follow the rules. Just read up on the rules. It doesn't matter what's on the bar.
That's coming from a ref.
Yeah, that's coming from a ref. And just take it all in, and just, you know, it is your day and it's your spotlight, but there is other people there as well, and just take the advice on board, like, no matter what, or just sort of like, you know, don't go in thinking that you are it all, essentially. I think no one's perfect, you know. So just, yeah.
Don't talk yourself down like that.
But yeah, just come prepared, and whether that's you do take on a coach or not, just take the time to be prepared for it, and there will be loads of questions, and obviously you'll apologise for those questions. But it's, you know, I think people have this fear of doing it wrong, or like, it's obviously like not necessarily embarrassment, but there's that fear of like doing it horribly wrong and not being able to adhere to the depth standards, like really wrong. Like, so just take the time to research it, and then you can decide if you are kind of I want to do this.
Yeah, I think like the best piece of advice I could give someone is the most complete footballer, the greatest complete footballer of all time, is Cristiano Ronaldo. Don't shoot me, but he didn't win the Ballon d'Or the first time he ever kicked a football. It took years of practice, and this sport is just like any other sport. You know, lower your expectations for yourself in the first year. Allow yourself the enjoyment to enjoy competing, get better at competing, which is a skill in itself. Like, you're not in the gym, you're doing it to rules, judges, you know, refs, sorry, you're doing it with refs, and you're doing it in front of people. You know, another tip I'd give is, in your first prep, don't squat facing mirrors if you can avoid it. Because that's going to be a real eye-opener when you stand out on the platform the first time. You look up from your first squat, and everyone's looking at you. So, yeah. Anyway, so I wanted to talk a bit about like how the transitions from sports as well, because obviously we might have people who are listening who have experience in other sports and the carryover. So, Shah, you were a cheerleader and gymnast, and like, how have you found the changeover from like that high level sport you were doing before? Because I mean, you traveled all over doing it, right?
Yeah. We went, we did competitions in America and things like that. There was like nationals, international competitions. So, I mean, they do, I have found that it's gone kind of hand in hand. Like, it's definitely the cheerleading and the gymnastics. Like, I was drilled. I like the level of conditioning that I had to do, and like flexibility training and things like that. And like power and things like that. It has grown me a really good like base and foundation for the powerlifting. Obviously the cheerleading side, that was a team sport, but there was also like individual aspects of that. So I was a flyer, so the person that gets chucked around in the air. There's a lot of pressure on you for that. So obviously when you're in the air, like all eyes is on you, all eyes are on you. So if anything goes wrong, like typically people do blame you, even if it was anything underneath you. So there was that kind of like individual bit that was just kind of focused on me, but wanting to do better for the team. And I think that my sort of mindset back then, it kind of messed with me a little bit because of the pressure of like doing something wrong, a bit like what you were saying earlier. My like sort of mindset was like, okay, I don't want to feel heavy for these guys. Like, people would comment like, oh, you feel really heavy today, or like, oh, you're getting a bit too big to fly. And like, I wanted to fly forever. So like, I didn't get really taught about like the nutrition side and how I should be fueling myself for performance. So I would just like focus on trying to be like really tiny so I could just like carry on flying forever. But the thing with coming over to powerlifting is now that I have been taught a lot better that like my nutrition needs to be on point if I want to do well and go far. Like, I need to fuel myself for this performance. I want to lift heavy weights, so I need to be able to like eat properly and things like that. So
it's helped your relationship with
I
food.
think, yeah, it's helped my relationship with food a lot. But yeah, I definitely think that it's been a good carryover for like things like bench and things like that. I'm able to, and like even like squatting to depth and things like that. It's had good carryover.
Nice,
I would say.
And Soph, you came from bodybuilding, which is, I mean, you obviously talked about your history in athletics, and you know, it was fairly obvious how that would have had carryover into a fast twitch dominant sport. But how did you, like, the two communities are very different.
Yeah.
How would you say the bodybuilding community is versus the powerlifting community? And how have you found the transition?
So the difference in community is a bit wild. I would say the powerlifting community is incredibly supportive. Everyone will cheer for everyone regardless. It doesn't matter if you're getting stuck with a 60 kg squat, like someone's going to cheer for you, everyone's going to cheer for you. And it kind of doesn't matter the weight on the bar. Do you know what I mean? Like, everyone does just go nuts, especially on deadlift. Whereas with bodybuilding, understandably, you know, you're all on stage at the same time. So you're going to cheer for the person that you want to see win. And so it can be a lot of like segregation between teams and with communities. And it's usually a bit of a bigger fuss if someone kind of goes to a different team and that kind of thing. So the communities are very different, and I think there is a lot more. I think bodybuilding drives this emphasis on winning a lot more. And if you don't win, there's like sometimes excuses or they had this, but I had that. And it all starts to get justified. And I often find that a lot of people won't let someone compete if they don't think they're good enough to win, which I don't really agree with. I think that, again, what I mentioned about powerlifting and getting into it depends what you want from the sport. If you don't care to turn pro or to win and you just want to do it for the pictures, the transformation, by all means, that doesn't make you less, of a bodybuilder. And so it's a lot more of that. Whereas in powerlifting, it's just like, you get PBs or you break a record or you qualify for something. That's incredible. And there's not just the ownership on winning. And a lot of the times during the comps, because everyone's on the platform together, all different categories, you don't really know in the moment who's winning until they give out the awards. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I would say that's probably the biggest difference in communities. And then you mean you want the
eating side as well, like for
eating,
like obviously to be a high level athlete in anything, there has to be an element of restrictive eating. Like whether it's you restrict yourself from eating too little or you restrict yourself from eating too much, or like you need to make sure that you eat all your vegetables and intake. We've seen online as well, like a lot of people, like they get damaged from the bodybuilding mentality of restrictive eating. Obviously we know in powerlifting that, some restrictions here and there maybe making weight, but people's relationship with food.
I think you're taking away what is comfortable for you.
Yeah.
You're missing those comfort foods, or like like when you're ill or anything like that, sometimes you just want to eat rubbish and all that kind of stuff. It's sort of, you're basing your life around the next meal. You can't
food focus is
you can't go out for that family meal. You can't just go for that quick coffee and bit of cake. It is that discipline, and you can still do those things without eating the food, but then it's the social awkwardness that comes with it. And I think certainly in the UK, we're obviously a heavy drinking culture as well. I think that stems along with it too. It seems not frowned upon, but like if you're not drinking, like even when you're driving, if you're not drinking, it seems a bit strange to not be doing that, regardless of people's background and everything too. So I'd say like that must be quite difficult as well if you don't have maybe family or other half who don't understand.
You know what, that's when you get into bodybuilding, that's the biggest thing that probably you might not always get with powerlifting, but I guess you might do a little bit. Like when you tell someone you want to be, I guess actually you probably would get this with powerlifting. When you tell someone you want to compete with bodybuilding or powerlifting, people's preconceived ideas of what that means. And I remember telling, my family or my friends, and they just thought, oh my God, that's going to be really unhealthy. You're going to have all these issues. Don't do this, don't do that. And obviously I've come out the other side of it. I don't have any issues, which is great. I know a lot of people do for different reasons. And I think as well, when you say, I'm going to get into powerlifting, people go, oh, like, are you gonna get too big?
My mum was like, you're gonna get a big neck. I was like,
well, you do. That's the trap.
Sandy's right.
I've got a massive neck.
Get your chaps out, Sean. Get your chaps out.
I found it crazy that when I competed at the Europeans in 2021, my parents were in Manchester at the same time and they came to watch. And my mum was sat in the audience probably just wanting to hide. And she was saying to Jen, like, is she really attempting that on bench? I think it was like 55 as well. It wasn't necessarily huge. And my mum was just so like almost shriveled up in the corner, couldn't imagine what she was watching, thought people were going to like die. She was like, I can't watch people's knees when they're squatting, like all of this. And then when she came to watch the Brits this year, when I obviously lifted heavier than 2 years ago, she was like, yes, like, well done, you smashed it. And I was like, oh, you actually watched it.
Yeah.
Rather than cowered in the corner.
Yeah, my mum will put the live stream on. It doesn't matter whose competition it is. So it won't even be me competing. It'll be like, oh, like, I'm going to watch them this weekend.
Yeah,
like,
but there is that self, like, predetermined
until
idea
you know
of what it's going to be like. And then when you actually are involved, it's quite different.
Yeah, I think as well, like we were talking about this earlier as well, is like even within the sport there's such like diverse set of approaches to like basically putting more weight on the bar, like with the programming and stuff like that. Like that is the aim, it's just to put more weight on the bar, but there are different forms of techniques and periodizations. And one of the things that we were talking about is like, you know, there are definite things that powerlifting can learn from bodybuilding, and like the hypertrophy phases, you know, and training for like volume and adding in work on muscles that are lagging behind. Definitely, like in some schools of thought in powerlifting is not popular, and then in others is. And like we kind of pride ourselves on like, even though the aesthetics aren't the goal, like a lot of the people we coach, they're looking really good, Nick. Because we like to mix a few of the methods at the same time, and we get really good results out of it.
Yeah, I would say like
it's building an athlete.
Yeah.
Obviously, the goal is the sport moving from weight from point A to point B as quickly as we can. But it's guiding them with nutrition, eating the right things, not just saying, right, just go and have a pizza afterwards and all that kind of stuff. Kind of thing too. And it just helps with, regardless of the look, it helps with your overall feeling. Like if you go out and eat rubbish after your training, you're not going to sleep well. Like if you're going to
see that a lot though, don't you?
Yeah.
You know, you see like
Bulk
a lot of
season.
like, do you know what I mean? Like I've just had a really heavy squat season, so a squat session.
I mean, to a
in
point,
McDonald's car
like
park.
if you're in a gaining phase, like you can have room for those odd treats here and there, but you want to try and do it like
make
as
better choices.
clean
I
as
used to
possible.
do that when I was in my bodybuilding off seasons. I think I probably would have 4 or 5 McDonald's a week.
I think we are.
And I
We're
really
all probably
justified
guilty. We're all probably guilty of it.
I thought,
Yeah, and I think
how
I
else
think
is
that's
it
I think
It's
that's definitely
the
something
thing
to
is
take.
like you see, I think mainly like bodybuilding, obviously like The Rock's cheat day kind of thing,
Yeah.
and everyone thinks, right, that's the level I've got to eat
Yeah,
to.
yeah, yeah.
But that's his one cheat day, like what?
But you're also not The Rock.
No, you're not
You
The
guys
Rock.
look
You're
like
Steve
him.
from Stevenage. Like you don't have 25-inch biceps. You know, they're 18.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you don't have those genetics and the other stuff. But here, it's I think definitely take that. Like we have a bit more of a bodybuilding with a human face attitude to our nutrition. We like people to eat the right foods, and we, you know, teach them about, you know, the more nutrient dense the food is, the better results you're going to get. Like, you're going to lift like shit if you just keep eating.
But also
McDonald's all the
not
time.
restricting people to say you can't, if you're not on prep, like
you can't eat
go out
this
and do it.
and
you
whatever.
can't drink that, but
Yeah.
just be mindful that when you come into training Monday morning after a heavy Saturday night, like your squats aren't going to feel great.
Yeah, don't tell me you failed.
But to be fair, I mean, like, I think like one of the more serious competitions, I mean, like when, like, I know like Meg's going to Worlds, when we go to a World Championship, like, you know, I think anybody, regardless of whether you are going to a World Championship and you don't want to finish last, or whether you're going to a pro show, like if you're stepping on that stage, on the platform, you should be going to win, or trying to do the best that you possibly can. So I think for those big competitions, we like to bring a bit more of a jackhammer down on people.
100%.
I know we did with you with the Irish Pro and abs, and we really like said, you know, okay, look, it's 8 weeks out of your life, like just dedicate yourself.
Yeah,
and
I just felt better. Like cutting out alcohol has been a massive thing for me.
Yeah.
I think, like, I don't miss it at all now. But I would like, even just like the anxiety I'd get after drinking alcohol. Like I feel so much better. And I remember one time I did go out for a drink and I came in and I tried to do my bench session and I failed my bench, and I was like, oh, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that.
But I think
So,
it's
yeah.
all those like 1%. Like when we talk about the carryover from other sports, you learn all those little things that add up that you kind of need to do all year round to some extent, and then others that you don't. And I think that when someone gets into powerlifting, when they haven't got a background in sport, they just think, I'm going in to train 4 days a week and then I compete when my coach tells me to compete. And it's like, actually, there's a little bit more to it than that. There's going to be decisions on a daily basis that you have to make that are going to swing in your favour or against you. And I think the more experience you get within sport in general, the better equipped you are with those handling those situations.
And like you'll notice when you're not ticking the boxes.
Oh, yeah,
And you have to,
shit.
you need to call yourself out on your own bullshit at that point.
Me last week.
If you're gonna, and not everybody as well, like one of the things that, like for me and everything else, is that if you fall off the wagon, it's not about like falling off the wagon that you need to kick yourself for. It's how long you fall off the wagon for, because you can easily, after 4 days of falling off the wagon, get back on the wagon. Like that's not going to hurt you. I've had 2 weeks off, 3 weeks off, 4 weeks off.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I've noticed now that like the coaching career is getting longer and longer and longer is you can have people with talent, and they can have all the talent in the world. And like I said, they come in, they train 4 times a week. They don't tick the boxes. Eventually, people who don't have as much talent but have a harder work rate and tick the boxes overtake them. It's strength. It takes time to do that, but it does eventually happen. And it's quite like eye-opening for people.
Oh, yeah.
So, and it's quite hard. You know, a couple of bad competitions when it's not so easy anymore. Do they stick around?
I think when you get to a more advanced level and you're fighting for every progression, it's a mindset thing then of, right, it's taken me a year to put 5 kilos on my squat. You're talking like high elite level guys who are doing all-time world records kind of thing. Like, you know, it starts off quite easy, doesn't it? Like,
you don't get much satisfaction.
even if you're just a general gym goer, like the newbie gains is quite easy. Sticking to it, it's then, can you stick with it when you plateau for a little bit? What do I need to change? Am I ticking all the boxes? Hold yourself accountable for what you can control, and then look at the external factors as well, what you can't control, and then just put that into context of why these things are happening.
And I think like one of the things that I learned about is like when we talk about these external factors, like the body's ability to handle stress. I mean, like I think you two will have seen when we were trying to get like the books and everything approved for the mortgage, like for 2 years, pretty much straight, I battered myself with work, and my training went completely out the window because I was just like so dedicated to the company and the coaching and trying to get this like mortgage and everything else.
You've reshifted your focus.
Yeah. But one of the things that I learned from that was like, I can't train like I used to. If I tried to, and I did try to, I gave it a crack of the whip, right? And it just made me worse. Right? I gave it a crack of the whip and it just made me worse and worse and worse. And I realized that actually like we have what stress levels we can tolerate, and our job is a stress. And although training can be a stress reliever mentally, physically it is a stress on the body. Your body can only handle so much stress. So what are you saying about external factors? You can still progress training 3 or even 2 times a week, but it has to be right for you.
Would you agree, I think all working in the fitness industry, that although training isn't your job, it certainly feels like work because you've got to be unfortunately 9 times out of 10 you're going to get hired for the way you look. And if you're then training in the same environment as where you work, like that could be another thing as well. It's like that might get interrupted, like, you know, through just general inquiries and all that kind of stuff as well. So, and, you know, it's no one's fault. Like, it's hard to, like, you don't want to be rude to people and say, no, this is my time. But I think that definitely plays a part in as well. And you see a lot of PTs in gyms actually go to other gyms to go and train because it is their switch off. It's their time to do that, but not always the case depending on where you are.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
We're obviously based in a gym which is so good you don't want to go anywhere else.
It would be such a downgrade. It would be such a downgrade for me. We've got bars there and stuff that we use, and you know, my back hurts enough as it is. Shout out to the sponsors. But yeah, so like I think as well, like you touched on this about like the aesthetics, about getting into PT, it is about how you look. Yeah, it does start to feel like a chore. So I think even if you relate that to powerlifting training, like if you're trying to be the best in the world, training at some points is going to be a chore. But the most important thing I think is that like if you have got high pressures at work or you have got high stress levels, that you find the way to train for powerlifting that completely fits you.
You just got to find a way to turn up.
Yeah.
You know, instead of missing that session, turn up.
Find loopholes.
Loophole, deload it. Still get them. It's a skill sport. Still train the skills.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
I mean, last week it took me 2 days to complete 1 session because I was having.
You were there for that long?
48-hour workout.
The motivation.
But I just have to break it into 2 halves, and that's just what I had to do. So
I think that's for just overall though, whether you're lifestyle or competing in sport, turn up.
Yeah. The motivation is not always going to be there, is it? That's when you have to like rely on the
You'll
stuff
feel better
discipline.
afterwards, regardless if it's a rubbish session. You'll be like, I've gone. I didn't miss out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And you've got to get creative, I think. I always say this to clients, got to find the loophole and get creative. And a lot of people go, oh, you know, I finished work late, so I couldn't go to the gym. And then it's like, okay, but what are you then doing from the time you got home to the time you go to bed anyway? And I remember when I used to come home from London, I would always have my gym bag in the boot of my car, and I would specifically park my car, so I had to drive past the gym to go home. And even if the trains were delayed and I'd get back at 8, I was like, well, my gym bag's in the car and I have to drive past the gym, so
Might as well go.
I can't.
Might as well
You have
go
to
in.
get creative sometimes.
When you're bodybuilding, might as well go do an hour of Stairmaster.
I was just gagging for it by that point after a day in the office.
But like more on like our methods as well, is like obviously we want to toot our own horn, and we've seen like the stuff with like abs and the promotions, the productions that they're all doing at the moment. It's part of the reason like why we're here as well. Like we kind of wanted to take like the whole content aspect to the next level and produce stuff. But we were talking earlier about this, about how we like to make everyone feel special. And when we were talking about grassroots powerlifting earlier, we're quite big on our grassroots powerlifting, and we like to bring people through, and we like to make everyone feel special. And part of that is we vlog and every competition that everyone goes to, so everyone's going to have something on YouTube that makes them feel
Everyone gets the same treatment.
yes,
Yeah.
Whether you're at a higher level,
yes,
or you're doing your first qualifier, you get the same treatment.
Yeah.
You get a reel. You all get the same kit. We all wear the same t-shirt.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
we're all one.
It's no
Yeah.
different because everyone's got that journey.
yeah,
Yeah, everyone has their moment,
Yeah.
which I think is nice. Everyone likes to feel special for a minute.
yeah, for sure.
Just
And
for a minute though.
Just for a minute. Just for a minute, and then we'll
just
and
for
then
9
take that away.
minutes.
Yeah.
Just for 9 attempts on a platform, right?
And if you keep talking about it 2 weeks later,
No, but it's nice because then we all go away and we can all celebrate each other's successes as well, which I think is nice. The team aspect of it all.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. And like, how have you two found the coaching, like working and coaching for the team and everything else?
It's horrible.
I hate you all.
get me out of here.
Any pet peeves?
No. As much as you lot,
Fish the dam.
no, as much as you lot wind me up. I think certainly getting them booked in, whether it's first timer or competed before, getting them booked in for that competition, I will give them credit where credit is due. The motivation levels just go up, and the box ticking we've just talked about, like no one misses a box ticked. Like that's certainly why, as you talked about earlier, it's not just like your average gym goer. What is your end goal? Like, you know, set that, whether it's in, I think we've got a crew going up to Warrington. I think you've got a couple and I've certainly got a fair few, and it's 4 months away, but we've got them booked in. They're locked in, getting ready for that. And it's over a Christmas period as well. We're obviously giving them Christmas off, but then it's, you are locked in. But no question's a silly question. But just follow the advice.
Yeah.
And, you know, as we said earlier, like we went to Jailhouse Strong seminar the other week, and it clarified that we're not doing everything wrong, but it gave us some new ideas for how we can train our athletes, and gave us some ideas on our training as well. It's, you know, it's not being too big for anyone, but just follow the advice and just communication. Like if there's something going
key.
wrong, just say, like, we're not gonna
Mind readers.
you know, we're not mind readers, and then we can adjust it. Like,
I think, you know, the Jailhouse Strong, you know, we were talking before about like taking the foot off gas, how I took my foot off the gas in training, and really at the time what I should have done was just like adapted and just done what I could at the time. That was embarrassing, you know, when I'm trying to pull 200 kilos and making it look hard in front of like one of the best coaches in the world, right? Do you know what I mean? Like, I just saying, like, yeah, back on that point, just try to make it work for you, because the time you take off, it's so much harder to get it back. Once you've got, like, if you've got high stress and you've got high stuff like going on, you know, like a lot of work going on, it is really difficult to try to keep the momentum going. How have you found it coaching for the team? Because you had coaching experience in cheerleading and stuff like that, but when we had this conversation, we speak about imposter syndrome and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, actually, I think you'd be really good to take on a lot of our first timers.
Yeah, the imposter syndrome is real, but I think like it's important to remember that even the most experienced people, like they will still feel that too.
100%.
But yeah, as you said, I did come over from a coaching background anyway, so I had like a good base for coaching. Like I know how to coach people, but obviously there's times where I'm like, oh, I've come across this and like I haven't experienced this before, and like I'll be second guessing myself even though I've been through all of that and I know it works or whatever. But that's why I'm quite grateful that I've got you as my mentor, because it does
do feed off each other, don't we?
Yeah, it like solidifies that what I'm saying is actually right, and just listen to me. But yeah, I mean, I've learned a lot as like a bit like being a lifter myself through my clients, is that sometimes they'll react in a way that maybe they just need to take a step back and just think about the situation a little bit more rather than just reacting on the spot.
Is that an apology coming?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I know I'm hard to deal with sometimes, but now I understand it from the other side. And yeah, I try and be better for you. But yeah, no, I think it's good that we've obviously all had like lifting background and sporting background, so that has had great carryover for then going into the coaching. But yeah, the imposter side, I think it's always going to be there. I have like moments where I have my highs and my lows, but yeah, my favorite thing is just going to the competition and like watching like all of that hard work that you've put into your athlete and just like seeing it come to life on the platform.
I think it's important not to dwell on it.
Yeah,
I think it's quite easily drilled into us from a sporting background.
Yeah,
like, cheer, you've got half a second to react. Football, you've got half a second to react. Athletics, if you miss the block by a millisecond, like, but it's then getting over it. Shake hands, move on. I think that's coming away a little bit now. If a tough conversation has had to be had, it still sits and you're letting that get in the way of all the other things.
Yeah.
You've just got to...
You need to control what you can control.
You'll miss a lift on the platform, but then if you sit there and sulk, it's going to ruin the rest of your day.
Yeah.
Whereas you've just got to move on for it. Done.
Yeah, we had that. Yeah.
I think when we're talking about the imposter syndrome as well, like from my own experience from coaching, the first time I ever started PTing, when me and Ravs worked together, imposter syndrome. You know, first competition that I competed in, imposter syndrome. When I moved to Rise, imposter syndrome. When I did my first powerlifting competition as a coach, imposter syndrome. Irish Pro, imposter syndrome. You know, abs, imposter syndrome, and none of it was warranted.
It's everything that's like out of your comfort zone.
And I think like for me,
do you think like, obviously we've spoken about our backgrounds, whether it's your sporting background or something else, like other factors in your life, like do you think that's kind of helped towards like,
I think like for me, obviously, where like my background is like, you know, I just had my struggles with things that were going on, and you know, I had to really rebuild my life. I won't go into too much detail, but I had to really rebuild my life, and I understood that not having not having anything positive, like the devil made work for idle hands. So I think like for my coaching at the moment, I really have a lot of care. Some people would say too much care. I think it's my greatest strength and my greatest weakness at the same time with what I do, caring about people, because I don't want them to...
There's also that you see, for whatever reason, people leaving a football team or a coach leaving, an athlete leaving a coach, that the one thing they might say is that this person didn't do enough for me. So do you not think that maybe you're doing too much is, you know, not a bad thing? No, essentially.
Yeah, like it is like I'd like to like get to know the people I'm working with, and you can like actually like affect change on a like a different level. Like this isn't a service where it's like, here's your check-in, see you later.
Yeah.
Like I want to see what makes you tick, how I can get the best out of you, because I feel like from what I experienced with the gym, powerlifting and everything else, like it was just a stepping stone of small goals that led to bigger ones that are like to where we are today. And the first one was going and joining a cricket club after having a few years out playing cricket. And if any of my cricket mates are watching this, you'll know I was shit at that as well. But yeah, like one goal led to another thing, become a PT to competing in powerlifting. Powerlifting helped the PT. Then it was kind of like, actually, no, like I'm getting really good results strength-wise with lifestyle people. Let's convert them into this. And then like taking that to like this heights. And I think that the reason why I'm doing this now is to help people stay on the straight and narrow, have something that they can have more positive things happen to them. And powerlifting can be that catalyst. It might only be one competition. It might be 5 or 6. But if it helps you to build yourself up in a way which like you become better, then that's enough praise.
Skills that you can take away anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're always learning.
If you have an in-person client, they can take those skills to another gym.
100%. Like you, and the thing is that I've had it at the moment where like some of the people that I'm coaching for powerlifting, like there's a distinct lack of mentorship. Me and you, we obviously had that mentorship. We were fortunate enough in the beginning to really get that head start. But there's a distinct lack of mentorship. Like if you go to Pure Gym and you become a PT, you are going to be in limbo unless you are really lucky, because no one in Pure Gym is going to help you become better. You're going to go on classes. You're not going to, unless you actually invest yourself and look to get better as a coach. And a lot of these people that are charging for this coaching service online are shysters. They're not actually, they're just trying to tell you how to be better businessmen. They're not teaching you how to be better coaches. And you can get such a head start by learning about this discipline and then applying it into what you already know, mixing and matching things. We all know if you get stronger at the squat, the bench, and the deadlift, you're going to build a half decent physique.
Oh yeah, that's when my physique started changing.
Right?
That's like,
Take it from a bodybuilding catalyst as well. There's always some form of squat, whether it's hack squat, whatever, some form of chest press, whether it's dumbbells and then a pull, a rack pull, a block pull, stiff leg dead. There's still a hinge, a press and a squat.
Because a lot of people get into the gym, they start with 3 times 10 on everything and then, or 3 times 12, and they hit a plateau. How do you get through that plateau? You need to focus on becoming stronger. How do you get stronger? Drop reps, throw more weight on the bar each time, that sort of stuff. And then after you've set new heights, go away, calculate those percentages, come back, do the volume at the right percentages and watch yourself grow. And that's what I think a lot of people now...
I wouldn't say there's necessarily a wrong program.
There's not. It's about the effort you apply into the program.
for sure.
100%. Yeah. Cool. Well, I think that's everything for today.
Blimey.
Does anybody have any parting words of wisdom that they'd like to go with?
Join Team Lift to Lift.
Link in bio.
Yeah.
Don't be shit.
I was going to think what you're going to say.